Hello, I'm Simone Ross, CEO of the Colorado Women's Chamber of Commerce. We partnered with PBS 12 to bring stories of women in the workforce to a new platform. These stories are real, they're raw. They show both the victories and the challenges women in the workforce are living. The statistics are clear. For every 100 men promoted to manager, only 81 women are. Also, women make only 29% of C-suite positions in the US as compared to men. These numbers are from the 2024 Women in Work report. Along with the challenges, we're seeing signs of change as well. In Colorado, we are closing the pay gap 3 times faster than others here in the US. So, how do we keep moving forward? Well, by learning from one another and sharing our experiences. And that's how Humanize, Women in the Workforce, was born. Over the past 4 months, we interviewed 12 different women, all in different industries and at different places in their careers. They come from different communities, too. It's my privilege to share these amazing women with you right now. In this episode, we hear from Barbara Brooks, Representative Brittany Pettersen, and Yazmin Castillo. First up, pro-age activist and speaker, Barbara Brooks.
I'm Barbara Brooks, 58. Proud of that chapter number, by the way. I'm originally from Colorado Springs, Colorado, a graduate of Colorado State University. And I also like to say, I'm proud to say that I was born in Orléans, France. That's the only French you're gonna get from me, to military parents. Mom, dad, and also my brother were all military. And so they retired here as Houstonians in Colorado Springs in my preschool years. So I'm a Coloradan, but born abroad. I started my career as a director of marketing of shopping centers all across the United States. Park Meadows Retail Resort being the last place that I was at as director of marketing. And so my career has taken me from marketing and public relations to, in 2011, losing that wonderful position and becoming an accidental entrepreneur. So over the last few years, prior to what I do now, which is completely different, I had a marketing and public relations agency with my business partner, Guadalupe Hurt, who I met when I was at Park Meadows. So fast forward to today, since 2018, when I myself, at 51 at the time, could not find a job, I decided to take an idea off the shelf and create a company focused on elevating women over a certain age. Now I'm a pro-age speaker. When you bring all generations together, of which there are 5 in some workplaces or 4 in most, that's of course Z, Millennial, Gen X, and boomers, and then traditionalists are above that. That would be my mom. My side way of eradicating ageism is to keep us all in the workplace. This age group of 40, 50, 60 plus is powerful in so many ways. The defining moment in my new career of being a pro-age speaker and advocate was I couldn't get a job. I was 51, only, operative word, only 51, and I couldn't get a job, and that was that 2018. Prior to me turning 50, the glorious number of 50, I was able to get 90% of the positions that I would apply for. And somehow, the world has said that humans over 50 are no longer valid. No longer do we need your services. Ageism is the last accepted ism in America today. We can make fun of it. Look at it, go to Hallmark, pick up a card. Black balloons, I used to laugh at them. My friends gave me black balloons and we laughed on my 40th. It's not acceptable. It is an ism that is affecting so many. And so now today you have women, particularly over 40, who are driving the economy through their small businesses. I believe the number is in the mid 40s. I think it's 45 to 44% of small businesses in Colorado are owned by women. And then nationally, it says that women over 40 are starting more businesses. And so when we're talking about what was the change for me, it was ageism. So I did something about it. I decided I'm gonna help other women. And so that's where Second Act Women came about. We host career events, events to elevate our mental health. If we can't get a job and we are caretaking for our kids for our parents, for ourselves. And a lot of times we're not putting that oxygen mask on first. If we're not able to do that because we can't have a job in the workplace, that's detrimental. And I myself have experienced the caregiving side. And if I can say one thing, how blessed I am that where I am today, even in this new career, and where I have been since 14 working, and the human that I am today is a testament to the mom that I am caring for today, who in 2023 had a stroke. And we had to sell our childhood home of 50 years. But there's hope. I do this because there's still women who needs to be advocated for. And here's the thing. 1 in 3 people in America today, guess how old they are? 50. And the US, UK, and Australia, in that order, are all at the forefront of helping of working to eradicate ageism. It's gotten better, but the fight will continue. We need for the world to understand our value. We need to be hired. My future is brighter than ever before, and so are the women who are 40, 50, 60 plus, and I'm fighting for that. If there's one thing I can tell anybody who's watching this who needs to hear it, and they are over 40, 50, 60 plus, you can. Don't let anybody, and this is the biggest cliche, but at 58, I finally get it. Don't let anybody tell you you are less than. Don't let anybody tell you you're too old. Don't let anybody tell you that you can't do what the thing is you want to do. You want to do. Do it. And I will tell you, you will have a community behind you. Not just my community of Second Act women, but if you surround yourself around the right people, you will have women who are there with you, lifting you up. Because today, in my world, and I'm a Gen Xer, there's no crabs in a barrel pulling each other down. Heck no. We are there, women in particular, we are there for each other, more than I've ever seen in my entire life. You will have others who are there to lift you up because you are worth more than you ever know, not even in the experience, the wisdom, what you bring to the table on the job, but also what you bring in life. You have reared kids or not. You have done things or not, because it's choice. But you have to remember that you can and you will, and we will all watch you, and we will lift you and be there for you. You can do it.
Thank you so much, Barbara. For more about Barbara, go to secondactwomen.com. Next, we have Representative Brittany Pettersen, who is working in Congress while expecting her second child.
My name is Brittany Pettersen. I represent Colorado's 7th Congressional District. So it's the suburbs in Jefferson County, Broomfield, and then it goes all the way throughout rural Colorado. So 6 counties through the Southwest. I'm the first woman to represent Colorado's 7th Congressional District, which is kind of wild when you think about, how far behind we are as women in so many of these spaces, but also we've made a lot of progress. I'm one of 3 women in Congress who have a toddler age kid. Now I'm pregnant and I'm the 13th voting member who has had a baby while serving. These life experiences that are very important because you're going through it just like other families are. You know how difficult it is to find accessible and affordable childcare. The wait lists, the lack of options. It's more expensive than college. There's not a lot of help out there for families. And so those experiences, that are happening now for people that are, need to be a priority at the federal level, having somebody that's going through that now is really important because, so many of the people in Congress have a incredibly outdated perspective. You know, there's a lot of systemic barriers that we face as women to actually being in these leadership positions. These spaces were not made for us. And, you know, when I was in the legislature and I'm pregnant and I had a baby during session, I was the first person to be on leave. And that's where we found that there was actually a law in place that prohibited extended periods of time of being gone unless it was a chronic illness, because they had never even contemplated a woman having to give birth and being away for an extended period of time. And so, you know, leadership had to categorize my absence as a chronic illness so that I could still be paid while on leave taking care of my newborn baby. I'm also very much judged as a woman with young kids for actually being in Congress. And so the way that people, you know, always ask, well, how do you do it with a family? Or assumed that because I had a kid, I was not going to run for Congress anymore. You know, just the differences with how people see me and my role versus any of my male colleagues. They don't get asked those questions. They're not questioned why they're doing their jobs because they have kids at home. And so there's just such a double standard. We actually had to bring legislation to change the law so that it was reflective of our paid leave policies in Colorado, and that you had, you know, up to 3 months that you could be gone while you were still paid as a legislator. I could choose to be gone and still be paid, but your voice is not, your constituents aren't represented for the time that you're gone. And so I've been trying to work alongside my leadership on proxy voting and having those same standards in place for, it's not about pay, it's about making sure that with unique circumstances and, you know, having those parameters for parental leave, that if you're a new parent, that you have that time away and you can still have your vote counted. I'm in a very difficult situation right now because we don't have any proxy voting in place. There's a point at which I'm not going to be able to fly. And so having that flexibility before you give birth and having your vote counted is part of what we need to be working towards in Congress. We've been going back and forth on if we were going to have a baby in Washington, D.C., and I'm going to have to take my toddler out of school to be in an apartment in Washington because of votes that they might need me for. I'm still trying to navigate it, but there are no accommodations. For me, being able to take care of my newborn and heal and recover myself, you know, giving birth is comparable to a very invasive surgery. I mean, you go through a lot. You have to have time off, and you should still be able to have your constituents and your voice represented. When I think about Pat Schroeder, you know, the first woman to be elected to Congress from Colorado, when she was on armed services, they didn't even have a chair for her. She had to share a chair with her male colleague. They didn't have a bathroom for women until Speaker Boehner was there. I mean, that was not that long ago. Ideally is that we change these systems with seeing these barriers and that we can kind of forge the way so that it's easier for the people who are coming behind us. My grandma, such a strong woman who always asked me where I was going to go to school, you know, just really tried to instill the importance of an education. My mom struggled with an opioid addiction. It started out with prescription drugs that led to heroin. So you can imagine, you know, what my childhood looked like. And I think it's the strong women in my life that stepped in and kind of filled in those voids. My biggest triumph is not going down the path of, you know, what I saw growing up and overcoming my circumstances. And I'm grateful for that every day. But in my career, I'm constantly underestimated. Even still, I'm 42 now, so it's better than it was when I was first elected. You know, everybody assumed I was Representative Pettersen's aide. When I'd go to meetings with lobbyists, they would talk to my aide, who was male, instead of me, who was the representative. I mean, even as an elected official, that they're choosing to talk to the male who was working for me and not me as the elected official. So I think it's, you know, how effective I was in my role, working across the aisle, building those relationships, actually getting some really big things done, taking my experience with my mom and really changing systems so that people like her aren't left behind and are given a chance to actually live in recovery and thrive. So those were some of my biggest accomplishments in the legislature. In Congress, I think it's, like I said, now being 42, and being a member of Congress, I feel like I don't deal with the being underestimated as much, but it's still always there. Even in campaigns against me, the ads that are a stereotype of being a dumb blonde, whether that's, all throughout my career from the very beginning. So overcoming those stereotypes and showing up as the professional that I am. Nobody is gonna ever tell you that it's your turn. I faced so much backlash for even thinking that I should run. From the very beginning to running for Congress. I ended up winning by almost 10 points in one of the most competitive races in the state, in a race where, I was a guaranteed loss because of being underestimated. And when I stepped up to run for Congress, definitely upset a lot of people who thought that it was not my turn. It is about stepping into these roles, doing it for the right reasons, doing the work necessary to make it across the finish line, and remembering that you have to push that aside because nobody's gonna ever clear a path for you. A lot of women don't support other women, and that's a huge issue. And one of the greatest things about being in this Congress, our leadership, Catherine Clark, who is our whip, she is so supportive, not just me as a mom, but trying to create paths and opportunities for women. What we can do to see that in each other, to lift each other up, to ask each other to step up, to be there knowing that, you're gonna face significant obstacles because you can guarantee that there are 5 men already lined up thinking that they should be in that role, and to have the courage to step up, but also the support system to get you there.
Thank you, Representative Pettersen, and congratulations on the birth of your new baby boy. In our final interview, we hear from Yazmin Castillo, Development Coordinator with Girls Inc. of Metro Denver.
My name is Yazmin Castillo, and I am a first-generation American. Currently, I work on the development team at Girls Inc. of Metro Denver. I've been in this role for about going on 2 years, but I've been involved with the organization for, I think, almost 10 years. When I first moved to Denver in 2015, I started as a volunteer with Girls Inc. I've always been involved with youth and in mentoring programs, and so wanted to find that here in Denver, and especially with young girls. And so I started out as a volunteer, and then throughout the years just wore many hats from mentor to lead to managing the volunteer program. When I first came to the organization, it was the first time that I vividly remember seeing somebody who looked like me in a CEO and leadership position. At the time, the CEO was Sonia Ulibari, which is a powerhouse of a leader, and she was the first woman in that role that I felt represented by, and it changed things for me. It's like for the first time I could see myself in leadership, and I just loved the space. It was empowering and supportive, and just being around the girls and the women in an all girl and women-centered space. Because, we hear it all the time, representation matters. Who we see is who we believe we can be. The opportunities that I thought were available to me or possible for me were limited, and I grew up in a small town. My dad was a landscaper and my mom cleaned houses. There's this funny comedian that always says being a daughter of immigrants is your parents, it's you're a doctor, lawyer, engineer, a failure, because those are the careers that you know to be as successful. Little do you know that there's so many other possibilities out there. And so at Girls Inc., one of the biggest things is that exploration of what is possible is very intentional in what we do our programming around, from career exploration and college and everything, and to make sure intentionally that it is women that look like them. It's very different when you see somebody who looks like you or speaks like you or comes from a similar background that makes that click and that connection where it's like, oh, I can do that too. One of the biggest aspects of being a daughter of immigrants is your work ethic, and that just innate like resourcefulness and compassion, empathy for like navigating the world. I think through just like the intersections of my identity, it has given me like a different perspective for how to just like think through challenges. And I think especially be compassionate to people's stories, especially as like women and women of color. The imposter syndrome is real, of wondering like that little voice in the back of your head that's continuously like, do I belong here? And like having to remind yourself and stand in it that I do belong here and I've earned this and I deserve to be here as much as anybody else. I think for me as a Latina, getting paid 51 cents to the dollar of a white man is that I have to work twice as hard to get half as much. That is also the conversation that needs to happen, and not just empowering and like building confidence within girls and women. Being like first generation and going through school, and something that I always continuously had 1 to 2 jobs in order to get through. It always came with like something had to be sacrificed. Like it was a constant balance of like, doing good professionally or like socially, but then also being there for my family. I'm like very focused on my career, and I'm very happy being focused on my career, but I know that I want kids in the future. But I know that like if I have children now, I kind of have to sacrifice being able to pursue, having the flexibility to be all in my career. And sometimes it's hard to do that when you have all these societal pressures. I think we are starting to see more women that it is okay to have, children later in life and focus on your career. There are a lot of like professional and amazing women that are around me now who that is what they chose, and it's really comforting to see that. The other like scary thing for me is like as I think about like having kids in the future is the cost of childcare. I have friends now that have like little ones, and they like the cost of childcare is somebody's entire like annual salary. I know when you're talking about women that you look up to, and I think especially as you progress in your career, is you have to like it is a responsibility to intentionally then bring people up with you. Especially women of color, bringing them into this like unspoken knowledge of advocating for pay and negotiating and asking for a promotion, and how to navigate those conversations to be that person that brings people up with you. The sacrifice, as much as like my parents have done in order to get me here, like this is what I'm doing to continue that building a better life for all of us.
Thank you, Yazmin. Since our interview, Yazmin has started a new adventure as Associate Director of Development at MSU Denver. We wish her the best of luck in her new role. 12 women, 12 voices, all incredible stories. We hope you've come away with some new insights and inspiration. To learn more about the Colorado Women's Chamber of Commerce, you can visit our website at cwcc.org. To watch all these stories and learn more about Humanize, you can visit pbs12.org or visit PBS 12's YouTube page. I'm Simone Ross. Until next time.